Welcome to the next edition of the Spring Football Recap Reviews. Chris Level, Ben Golan. This episode is brought to you by Primary Residential Mortgage Incorporated. Whether you are buying, refinancing, or taking cash out of your home, PRMI can help. You can reach them by email at prmiraider@primeres.com or through their website at lendingwithpassion.com. Level, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, our man Jim Mitchell will take care of you. Yeah, this next position group is fascinating because I think you lose from it your overall best player last year. I don't think anybody would suggest otherwise, but it's also maybe a position group that could be better. The total of it could be better. I think it's a bit deeper, a bit more experienced. I don't know if it's, and I guess that it remains to be seen if it's as dynamic minus Tyree Wilson. But the first thing that comes with this group is that you get your two interior guys back,
Huge.
two old heads and like faces of the program in some ways, and Tony Bradford and Jalen Hutchings. I think these are very rare. Would it be because one, this is in the portal era, this is going to be kind of rare that you get kids that you grow old with, if you will. And this is I mean, I think you'll see this much more in football than in basketball, certainly, but I do think it's a bit rare that because D line, especially interior, it's not a glamorous position. A lot
Hmm.
of times you don't know or hear about those guys a ton. And I think Tony and Jalen won because of their productivity and their personalities and just their durability and their all the above. They just check every box. They're great representatives of your team and your defense and all the above and your university, really. Just good kids, and they're both good at what they do, and so that was the first step in putting together a really, because there's no way I'm saying this about it potentially as a group could be better this year than last if those guys are not back, period.
Yeah.
And you would have been on the serious lookout for some interior D line help if one or both of those guys would have departed, but they decided to see it through.
Huge. I mean, you mentioned you don't normally hear about these guys, but when PFF is putting out graphics that they're one of two Power Five combos with over 30 pressures, I mean, these guys are as productive and all those things you mentioned, their personalities and yeah, it's just I think you had a lot of super seniors and guys who could leave. Those two getting them back is just, season changing potentially.
Yeah, I agree, and Tony missed the spring because he had to get some work done on his shoulder, and I think he played through the bulk of last season with it. Nobody really knew, and yet he just kind of kept gutting it out, and I think went and got that fixed. But he's recently graduated, and anyway, just this is the mayor, as Joey McGuire calls him, and I think Jalen actually has a chance to be a prospect for the next level as well. I think that you hear some commentary about that, so we'll just keep an eye on that. But okay, let's get into the rest of the group,
Okay.
and we'll kind of blend here. I think this is tricky because we'll kind of treat inside linebacker as its own video for our purposes, but we'll kind of blend into some defensive end / outside linebacker type stuff here because it's hard to kind of there's a variety of gray area here and all that, but we'll just treat this as kind of one big group. And so you have the Miles Cole and Steve Linton additions, which got a lot of got a lot of ink this spring, and I think most of that coming from Joey McGuire and James Blanchard. Kind of started the spring off with like, oh my, they are very. I've always found it fascinating like whenever I was around Mike, and I've talked about this on other things that I've done, but it's always fascinating me when I was around Mike, especially the back half of his career when they started to get really good. I say career, his tenure here,
Yeah.
and he'd really pour cold water on stuff more often than not, and like kind of keep the hype down, and like, man, these guys haven't done anything yet. Like y'all are getting way ahead of yourselves, and whatever it may have been. We don't need these guys reading their clippings, fat little girlfriends. I mean, all the stuff, and not just his offense, but defense, whatever. Just generally, that's kind of the way he operated. And yet Joey and James Blanchard, like, this guy's a first rounder, and they haven't
Yeah.
really done anything yet. Haven't really done anything yet. So they are kind of the opposite in that they're not trying to keep expectations down. They're trying to raise them and tell you all about it. And so I think still we'll talk about Linton first. Linton comes in here undersized, was used differently at Syracuse. I think they really did their research there and figure out, okay, if we use him in this way, add a little bit of weight to him, there's things that he can do that really translate for what we would ask him to do. So he's much like, say, like a Tyler Shuck. He's up to about 235. He's added some really good weight, in this offseason since he got here. And I think, he's at 232, 235, but he still plays really fast. But he's now much more physical. This isn't just a specialist. This is an every down kind of guy. And I think they have been really pleased. His motor, his quick twitch. I mean, there's a lot to like there. And I think they're going to be really surprised if he can't produce with sacks and quarterback hurries and just really disrupting the quarterback, whether that is moving the quarterback off of his spot, whatever the case may be. I think they feel like he's a disruptor, and I think that's what they desperately needed. And then, Ben will go to Miles Cole. I wonder if this is going to be similar to a Dwayne Slade type scenario. And what I mean by that is I'm not suggesting to you that he's going to be the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year of this year.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. But what I am suggesting is the leap from year 1 to year 2 could be massive for him. And I think that's the expectation. He showed you flashes last year. They moved him around with his position a bit last year, which kind of stunted his growth a bit, but it was what the team needed at the time.
Yeah.
And now I think they've kind of put him on the edge, but I think they can put him inside. I think they can do some different things with him. But he's now in better shape. He's now understands the scheme, and he's just difficult to block. I don't think I'll use the word dynamic. I don't think he's as dynamic as Tyree Wilson. I think that's a very high bar that is, I don't want to say impossible to reach, but it'd be very difficult for anybody to reach. But I do think that this is going to be a very, very good Big 12 player. And I think you're talking potentially first or second team Big 12 type guy. And based on his measurables, this is where the staff feels like he's a draft prospect. You just have to have some production that comes with it. Because I think these two guys we're starting talking about have a combined 3.5 to 4.5 college sacks. I think, is that right? Or last year, I guess. Then maybe last
Yeah.
season combined. Maybe let me add that. Yeah, last season combined. And so you're looking for quite the leap here. I think if they both feel like they could both be in the 7 to 10 sack range, I mean, you're really eclipsing kind of what you're talking about. But I know that they feel like that Steve Linton, he's got 2 years to play here, but I don't think they feel like they'll get a second year from him. Yeah.
Yeah, Linton transfer from Syracuse. There was a period there where it looked like, I know they really wanted him. He came for an official visit. It kind of looked like maybe that wasn't going to work out. So,
yeah,
uh,
because I remember the chatter.
yeah.
It was back during mid-December, and then it went into the bowl game time frame, and a lot of it had to do with like transferable
Hmm.
credits and some things like that. We just don't know if it can work, and I think he's had to do some things to ensure that it works. But no, there was a lot of motivation on all sides to make it happen, and sure enough, I mean, I think that this was a major addition to your football team.
Yeah. You mentioned Miles Cole, not as explosive as Tyree, and I agree as far as like the speed and the quick twitch and all those things. But physically, I mean, he's almost a clone as far as like height, weight, arms. He's got, what does he have, like an 84, 86 inch wingspan? Like it's ridiculous. The
Yeah. Well, measurable wise, like just as far as body type, I think he's a
yeah.
little taller and has a little bit longer wingspan. I don't think though that he's as quick. I don't think he would
Yeah.
test as well in like the some of the agility stuff. And the key is like you know Tyree's motor was just nonstop, and it was
Hmm.
running as hot on a Tuesday afternoon as it was on a Saturday afternoon. And I think that's where Tyree was just different. And Tyree's presence, just him standing there was worth something. I don't know how much, but it was worth something. Trust me, because a variety of people have told me this. And without his presence, some of these guys are going to have to, you know, like recreate that, or you've got to have other people that kind of have that about it because it creates a level of confidence in that side of the ball.
So,
But yeah, go ahead.
well, so Steve Linton comes in. He's going to play the position Josiah Pierre played last year, which is kind of that boundary edge. Josiah Pierre moved inside to linebacker. And then we haven't even mentioned the two guys. Did they both start the bowl game? I know they were big contributors, Joseph Adedire and Isaac Smith. So just I think the depth at that outside linebacker position is just as good as it's been here in a while.
Yeah, it's like outside linebacker slash defensive end
Yeah.
slash, yeah, a little bit of everything. I will, and like, you added Quincy Ledet.
Hmm.
I think who missed some time in the spring. I think that Blake Burris was a bright spot in the spring. This is not a scholarship guy, big time presence. I think you had your Duda Banks. I think your Charles Esters. There's a lot of names here that there's some serious depth, and I think the people have kind of forgotten about some of these younger guys that I think had really good spring games. I'm probably even forgetting some of the names there. Let me make sure that Harvey Dyson, another one,
Hmm.
that I think they all had, kind of took a next step because Joey basically told some of these guys, before the spring, your time is now, and it needs to be now. And if not, you're going to get passed up, and then we wonder what your future is, kind of thing. I think it was just kind of like, okay, don't just like go through redshirt year like you did last year. The things are different, and I think he gets really frustrated when guys get in the mindset of, well, I'm redshirting. They don't really, or I'm not really playing. I'm on the scout team and I'm not going to go as hard. I'm just going to kind of get through it. Now, he wants guys that are busting it all the time. And I think some of these guys have really taken the next step. I will tell you that, like an LB Moore, I think, he got passed up by Dylan Spencer, one of your signees. And
Yep.
I think that is why LB Moore is not here anymore. I think he more than likely, could end up at Abilene Christian as a possibility. So we'll see. Depending on when you see this, that may have happened or not happened, or maybe he'll choose to do something different. I don't know, but I knew that was a possibility at one point. But back to a data ray, I think there's enough depth here, and I'm gonna surprise you. I'm not going to be surprised. And when I kind of was talked to about this, I was like, whoa. I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could look to redshirt him, play him as 4 games. Not that they're looking to, but I think they may have the luxury of doing so. We'll just kind of see. That is not like in ink. That is just kind of a possibility, but it just speaks to kind of how, because they had to play him as a true freshman.
Right.
And he didn't get the chance to but maybe now you can kind of a year later, maybe you can still play him in his 4 games and you still can give him time, because this is a really good player, but there are some good players around him to where maybe, I don't know, maybe it's best for Joseph and maybe best for the defense to where maybe we can, I don't know. So we'll kind of just monitor that. Just remember that I said that. So we'll kind of see. I wouldn't rule it out, but also no, plans can change. But it's not a possibility I would dismiss. And again, I was surprised when I was like, "What? Like seriously?" Because I'm always thinking like all hands on deck.
Hmm.
But keep in mind, you're going to graduate two big time interior guys. You want to try to keep some of this core kind of around here as long as you can. So maybe there's a best of both worlds there. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
You mentioned. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as like the depth there, I mean, if that makes sense. I just wonder what the player, if the player is cool with that, and the
Oh,
day
I think in
of
that
the
case,
portal and all
yeah.
those things, it just makes me curious. But
Oh,
seven,
I think in those cases, I think that it would be well discussed and everybody would be on the
yeah.
same page with it. I mean, they would never, in my opinion, do anything, like that, that would everybody wasn't on the same page about. So I think that, and heck, for all I know, it could have been his idea.
Hmm.
I don't really know, but they would not do that or operate that way unless they, but I mean, heck, play them against Oregon, play them against Texas at the end of the year, play them against Kansas State, play them against, you can kind of pick your spots there. So, and it takes a unique situation. Again, I'm just throwing that out there because
Yeah.
I'd heard that and then I wouldn't dismiss it. You mentioned the other name though. He did not go through the spring at all because of the dirty play by an offensive lineman for Ole Miss that injured Isaac Smith. This guy, man, I think because I think we saw what he was capable of at times last year when they kind of started to put him in a bit, and you started to see people were like, who is this kid? Like, where did he come from? Well, this was a Matt Wells, Keith Patterson get from a few years ago out of the state of Oklahoma.
2-star.
He looks tremendous.
Yeah.
He has got a motor. He's country strong, but he's gotten in the weight room and really like, I mean, he's an impressive looking cat, man, and he produced enough to where I think because I mean you're talking about a young player. I mean, this is a guy that's still it's all in front of him. You will hear from Isaac Smith a lot this year, and I think I think you're in really good shape here. I really do. And you got the young buck and like a Dylan Spencer. You've got and we talked about the Linton and all, so there's just some pieces here where you can go 2 and 3 deep and feel really good about it across the board. And so we'll kind of see what we get. And I don't, you got like a Robert Wooten. You've got, help me out, Ben, if I'm forgetting to mention anybody's name
Yeah,
that we,
Charles Esters,
yeah,
Terrell
mention
Tillman,
Esters, Terrell Tillman.
Sam
Yeah.
Carell,
Hmm.
Trevon McAlpine, who they were really high on, got hurt last year.
Yes.
There's a lot of depth there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just, because and I think Philip Liddy leaving, via the portal, I don't know if they were necessarily cool with him leaving. I think they would have, but I think that fate was sealed whenever Tony and Jalen decided to come back, and he wanted to start, and so
And that's where you go get Quincy Ledet. I mean,
correct,
that's
and that
another veteran, a senior guy to
yes,
fill kind of that rotation type of role. One quick thing on Isaac Smith, just because we were just talking about him, I pulled up his commitment profile I did when he committed. So this is 2 years old now, but the fastest 400-meter guy out of 11 Big 12 defensive ends since 2010 at the time who ran the 400-meter, he had the fastest time. So, kind of makes you think that this coaching staff would have gone after him too, the way they value those track times, and he fits that
yep.
profile.
Yeah, and I know if they sold like his arms at a store, I'd pay good money for that. I mean, he looks good in a tank top. I mean, not no, I'm just telling you. I mean, it's noticeable how much he's bulked up with his upper body. I guess whenever I'd see him around in the spring, I joked with him about that. I was like, dude, yeah, curls for the girls for sure. I mean, he just looks because he showed up here tall and skinny, but he not anymore. I mean, he's really started to put on the weight and all those things, and now he can hang in there against the run and do some different things. But yeah, you're in really good shape here for now and in the future with your core. So it's a fun group. we'll keep an eye on what happens with the data array. I wouldn't plan on one way or the other. I just wouldn't rule something like that out. And again, injuries will dictate it and things like that. But yeah, the anchors of that group are Tony and Jalen, and they'll be because they have to be guys that people around the league are like, those guys are still there. I mean,
Yeah,
they're still there. Yes, they are. Thank goodness.
especially Jalen because he played some in 2018, so this is his
Right.
sixth year.
And he had a carry,
Yeah,
last year. That was Joey's. I remember
scored a
on his
touchdown.
coach's show, it was like I get to carry the ball, man. I'll come back. And Joey was like, I'll remember you said that. And
Should have
so
scored
yeah,
two touchdowns.
yeah,
Had a scoop right right in front of the end zone against Kansas. He got
yeah.
caught. One name I'm monitoring, Emmanuel Okoye's a young man from NFL Academy in London, took an official visit a few weeks ago. Texas Tech, Tennessee, USC. Or he just released his top three. So we'll keep an eye on that. And anything else level?
No, I mean, hopefully we didn't leave anybody out, but it's a fun group. It's a deep group. Again, kind of some gray area as far as are they an outside linebacker, defensive
Yeah,
end, whatever. It just depends on down and distance in the scheme, but we just kind of lump these guys together. We'll do interior linebackers next.
sounds good. Thanks for subscribing to Red Raider Sports.